Good afternoon. My name is Loki Karuna. I'm the Director of Artist Equity for the American Composers Orchestra, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's Toulmin Spotlight. The music that we were just enjoying there was written by Courtney Bryan, who is a previous recipient of the Toulmin Orchestral Commissions Fellowship, a work there that she titled Footsteps of a Queen. If you don't know, Courtney was also recently featured on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, in addition to receiving a MacArthur Genius Grant in 2023. So her star is definitely shining, and we're so proud to have had her as a participant in our programs here at the American Composers Orchestra. So this isn't your typical professional development webinar. What's special about today's session is that each of you will get to see what one of the results of our earshot readings are, or rather what 6 of those results have been so far. Thanks to the generous support from the Virginia B. Toulmin Foundation, we're able to facilitate fully funded commissions for selected women and non-binary earshot readings participants, pairing them with lead orchestras and building consortia around each of those commissions. So each of the women who you'll meet today are former earshot readings participants and were hand selected by our cohort of lead orchestras to write a brand new orchestral work to be premiered in this upcoming season. The League of American Orchestras, in partnership with the American Composers Orchestra, has established this 30 orchestra consortium with premieres scheduled to take place between 2024 and 2026. Underscoring the Virginia B. Toulmin Foundation Orchestral Commissions Program's ongoing successes, this national consortium has helped ensure that new works by women and non-binary composers will be fully infused into orchestral seasons for years to come, with multiple performances throughout the country. If you'd like more information about the Toulmin Orchestral Commissions Program, more information about earshot readings, and everything in between, feel free to visit our website. That's americancomposers.org. I'm also happy to announce that there's still room to join one of the consortia that these women are a part of. So if you're here representing an orchestra, you can learn how you can submit your proposal to join one of our lead orchestras as a consortium member on our website. Again, that's americancomposers.org. And with that, I'd like to begin our spotlight with our first composer, Brittany J. Green. Brittany is a North Carolina-based composer, creative, and educator. Her music facilitates intimate musical spaces that ignite visceral responses at the intersections of sound, video, movement, and text. Recent works engage sonification and Black feminist theory as tools for sonic world building, exploring the construction, displacement, and rupture of systems. Her artistic practice includes spoken and electronic performance, interdisciplinary collaboration, experiential projects, and acoustic and electroacoustic chamber and large ensemble works. Brittany, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and congratulations on this commission.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here today and to be a part of this.
So, before your participation in earshot readings with ACO last year, many people, myself included, were introduced to you not necessarily as a composer, but as an academic. I wonder if you can speak to how the worlds of academia and composition have come together for you and informed your process.
Sure. I think what's really great about both of those areas is that often find moments where they can inform each other and interact. And so, kind of taking my experience as a composer and thinking about the real experience of making music, the physical experience of making music, even particularly when you're performing, and thinking about how that can inform how we study music. And of course, moving in the other direction as a composer, something that I've found a lot of interest in these past few years is really like experimenting with how can I bring that kind of academic study, particularly in fields outside of music, in, into composition, and thinking about the ways in which I'm composing music. How can it be informed by Black feminist theory, by Black studies, by queer studies, by just a world of things.
And of course, you write for so many different mediums, but we're here talking about orchestral writing. I wonder if you could speak to what you consider some of the biggest challenges, maybe even biggest opportunities around writing for orchestra specifically.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges, which is also one of the most exciting opportunities about writing for orchestra, is just the vastness of what you can do in terms of the types of sound worlds you can create, the types of material you can bring onto an orchestral stage. And then, of course, thinking about historically kind of how you see your own work being in conversation, uh, whether in support of or against or in tandem with kind of the history of the orchestra. And so it leaves you with an overwhelming amount of options to think about and parse through. But I find it really exciting to kind of dig through those weeds and kind of figure out what is the sound that I want to create, what is the world that I want to create in a collaboration, and how do I go about doing that.
So, what do you plan to bring to your collaboration with the Jacksonville Symphony?
Yes, I'm so excited about that and really interested in kind of digging back into my roots, kind of growing up. I grew up in the Black church, and so my very first experiences with music were in that setting and in such a communal setting, a communal music making setting. So I'm interested in exploring that in the piece, as well as kind of ideas about ancestry and memory across generations and shared experiences. So I'm excited to explore all of those things in my piece with the Jacksonville Symphony.
Well, amen and ashe. How about that? Well, just to give folks a taste of some of the things that you've created in the past, we're going to hear an excerpt from a work that you titled Against Sharp. What can you share about this piece of music?
Yeah, so this piece is a chamber orchestra piece, and it gets its name from a quote by Zora Neale Hurston, where she says, "I feel most colored when thrown against a sharp white background." And with this piece, I was thinking a lot about particularly police brutality amongst Black people, and specifically also Black queer people. And so this piece kind of deals with that, not just in the conceptual idea, but also in the material itself, and really looking at scholars like Bell Hooks and Jose Munoz and the concepts of disidentification and oppositional gaze, and exploring ways to use those theories as compositional tools to build worlds and disrupt worlds and create dissension within systems. So that's what that piece deals with.
Beautiful. Well, we're going to hear an excerpt from it now. Brittany, congratulations again, and we can't wait to get your consortium kicked off. Congrats so much, and
Thanks so
thanks for being
much.
here.
No longer that strange fruit in the breeze, but children of the sun cackling with the stars. No longer unseen, no longer unseen, no longer unseen. No longer silenced, unfolding out from, puncture against sharp, taking up space, reclaiming space. Reclaiming space.
Beautiful work there by Brittany. Well, up next, I'd love to introduce to each of you Jasmine Guo. Jasmine is a film and concert composer and classical pianist from China. She has appeared as both a performer and composer in Asia, Europe, South America, and the United States. Her music has been performed by renowned soloists, including Bella Hristova and Stefano Greco, and by ensembles, including the Dallas Symphony Orchestra, the Shepherd School Symphony Orchestra, and the Cleveland Institute of Music Symphony Orchestra. Jasmine is currently a member of the Pi Kappa Lambda Society, ASCAP, SCL, and AWFC. Over the years, she has received a number of awards and fellowships, including receiving second place in the American Prize competition in 2020, being the recipient of the 2021 ASCAP Morton Gould Award, and being selected as one of the featured composers by the 2023 ACO Earshot Program. Welcome to the stage, Jasmine. Jasmine, thanks for taking the time today.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Loki. Thank you for the introduction.
So it was about a year ago when you received an email from me saying that you'd been selected for earshot readings with the Dallas Symphony Orchestra. So now that you've gone through the process, what do you remember as being the most useful or beneficial aspect of this program?
Well, I must say everything was so helpful, from the notes from the copyist, librarian, mentors, all the musicians. It was just so helpful to me as a composer. And also having a piece, because that was a very personal piece of mine. And having that piece being selected by ACO and performed by DSO just means so much to me.
And it really was a brilliantly, brilliantly performed work and brilliantly written work as well.
Thank you.
You know, you're at a very interesting intersection as not only a composer, but also as an assistant professor at the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about your work at CCM and some of the major differences, or maybe some of the major similarities between the field of commercial music where you teach and the field of orchestral music where you also work.
Sure, sure. At CCM, I teach several classes, including two music production classes, studio composition class, songwriting, and film scoring, which is what I also do. So almost everything is on the commercial end, but I definitely think the two areas share some similarities. I mean, we're both creating music that we have a deep feeling of, and we're trying to use our music to reach out to people out there who might share the same kind of feeling. And I guess the difference, commercial music is you get these very clear goals set by someone else, like my directors. They would tell me what to do, and if I can do the job, it's a good work. And it's really fun. You're working with a group of people. It's a collaboration. And I feel like a magician if I can, they say, I want that. And I say, yeah, let me do it with my music. And it happens. It feels great. Whereas concert music to me is very, very personal. It's like writing a diary and showing my diary to the world. And by writing, I'm just continuously trying to find who I am, what I want to say to the world, and how my life is impacting me with my musical thoughts.
Yeah,
So
thanks for
it's
that
very, very
distinction.
personal.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So you actually have been paired with a lead orchestra that you've already worked with, the Dallas Symphony Orchestra. I wonder what you see as an advantage of being commissioned by an orchestra that you've already worked with, especially considering what you just shared about composition being such a personal process for you.
It feels like going home to me. I remember before the summer reading, I was getting nervous. I didn't know if they will like this kind of writing, how well they will work with this kind of writing. And now that after I've worked with them, knowing their amazing sound and their amazing work, I just feel excited. There's no nervous anymore. So
Oh, good, good. And we're
yeah.
definitely excited as well. So to introduce our audience today to an example of your style, we're going to hear a little bit of a work of yours called Night Ghost. What can you tell us about Night Ghost?
Night Ghost is a piece I wrote back in 2018 when I was doing my master's degree at Rice University. And back then, I was quite into reading these old folk tales. So in my mind, I had all these imageries of a mountain ghost king who would appear at night, and I made a story from all these images. So this piece is based on a story, and it begins with all this powerful Ghost King intro into a rather beautiful passage, I would say. So it represents the palace of the king, and then there's a celebration section. I don't actually always write my concert music based on a story, although I am a film composer, but it is interesting because right after I finished this piece, I became a film composer.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, you're definitely doing a really great job of writing your own story. So congratulations again for being a part of this latest Toulmin consortium, and we're looking forward to more successes to come. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Here's a little bit of Night Ghost by Jasmine Guo. Beautiful, beautiful work there. Well, continuing today's spotlight, please welcome Karena Ingram. Karena is a composer based in Baltimore, beginning her career after graduating from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County in 2016 with a degree in music composition. Her chamber ensemble and symphonic works have been performed regularly throughout the United States, Europe, and in television and video games. Most recently, she has been commissioned by the UMBC Ruckus Ensemble, Baltimore Center Stage's production of Life is a Dream, and the American Composers Orchestra as a part of our Connecting ACO Community Virtual Series back in 2022. Described as stunning and beautiful musical depictions of nature, Ingram's music is reputable for its imaginative use of color and textural exploration. Karena, welcome and congrats again on this commission.
Thank you so much, Loki, and everyone. I appreciate it.
So you were on the ground with the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra for your earshot readings back in the 2016-2017 season. This was before many of us who are on staff with ACO today were around. So I wonder if you could share what you remember most about your earshot readings experience.
Yeah, of course. When you say the year, it seems like it's so much farther like ago than it was remembering it back. But um aside from like I feel like the obvious answer of just like hearing a professional ensemble premiere your piece on stage and hearing it in that fresh way for almost it feels like a first time, other than hearing it inside my head, right? I really remember everyone's kindness which I just really, really appreciated, of ACO, of the Indianapolis Chamber Ensemble, everyone's kindness, willingness to share information, to learn more, to get to know one another. And it was a delightful mix of like professional development, but also just like a personal healing of like the feel good vibes of everyone. So that's the biggest takeaway that I have from that experience.
We're always here for the feel good vibes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when the Memphis Symphony let me know that they were interested in commissioning you as a part of this program, I was so excited to, hear about my hometown orchestra being a part of it. I sent you an email, but I also felt like I needed to call you just in case that my email fell through the cracks. And I have to admit, I was a little afraid that you would think this was some sort of scam. It's not every day composers get a phone call about a commission. I wonder how
Right.
you remember receiving the news that day.
I was saying this a little earlier, but honestly, it was the one time that something inside me told me to answer a phone call because all I get is spam. If it's not my mother, it is spam. And so when I saw that number pop up, I was at work and at my desk, and I was like, maybe I should take it. And so it was a delightful surprise that it wasn't an automated voice message of spam, but rather this like beautiful opportunity. And I could hear the enthusiasm in your voice at that time and the excitement from it, which made me even more excited about the opportunity. So yeah, I just remember being like, I'm glad I actually answered the phone for once.
We all are glad you answered the phone. So one thing that I'm really excited to see in the field more and more are composers like yourself who aren't afraid to shy away from things like race and social activism as it applies to composition. Considering that you have the unique opportunity to serve Memphis as a part of the your lead your premiere, a predominantly Black city. I wonder if we should expect something on that theme when it comes to this collaboration with the Memphis Symphony.
I would say yes. So it's an honor to be able to write for the Memphis Symphony. So like that in itself is just like a really, really big part of considering what I'm writing. But I think a lot of my earlier music was leaned more on the programmatic side of things. And then through the pandemic and quarantine and kind of like sitting in isolation and faced with the world around you, I felt more compelled to use my music to put to words things that some people cannot hold on to, those harder concepts when it comes to race and social injustices and things like that. And I was like, well, if they're not hearing it with words, how else can we share this message and this importance of marginalized communities to the wider world? And so I was like, well, I felt a greater need in myself to start writing more honestly the things that I felt and have done so since. And so while I am still working on this piece, I can't say for certain it will be directly about that, but I would be shocked in myself if it was not, honestly. Like whatever I feel needs to be spoken about will come out of me. So
Wow. Well, as a native Memphian, I have to say that I am especially excited about your premiere coming up. And congrats again. To get a little taste of your process and your aesthetic, we're going to hear a little bit of a work of yours called Gaia's Nature. What can you share about, with us about Gaia's Nature?
yeah, of course. Guy's Nature was originally written when I was an undergrad. It is probably one of the pieces that I'm still to this day the most proud of, in working closely with musicians who are close friends to this day, to write this ensemble piece that originally I'm really fascinated by the personalities that instruments hold and how you can have a group of so many different individuals together and then hear them have the same conversation but say things so differently. And I think an ensemble works just the same in that way. And so I was like, well, if these instruments were personified in the way that nature works harmoniously, how would they speak to each other? So that's pretty much the premise of Guy's Nature in that way.
Wonderful. Well, congrats once again on your Toulmin commission. We're looking
Thank you.
forward to hearing the premiere next season. And thanks for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Here's a little bit of Gaia's Nature by Karena Ingram. Beautiful trill to bring that excerpt to a close. Thanks again. Well, up next, I'm very pleased to introduce you to composer Meilina Tsui. Meilina is a composer, pianist, singer-songwriter, advocate for youth artistic development, and educator based in Orlando, Florida. Born in Kazakhstan and raised in Hong Kong, Meilina is a composer who popularizes Kazakh music tradition and creates works that uniquely combine elements of Central Asian and East Asian cultures. She's the first Chinese classical composer of Dungan ethnicity whose music has been gaining international recognition, and Meilina holds music degrees from the University of Michigan, King's College of London, and the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Meilina, welcome and congratulations on your latest commission.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Loki. And can I just say congratulations to all my fellow Toulmin Orchestral Commission awardees. I'm an absolute fan of your music, and I'm so thrilled for you, and I can't wait to hear what you create next. Congratulations to you all.
And Meilina, a lot like this Toulmin cohort, one of the things that made your earshot readings experience unique was that it was also an all-woman composer cohort. I wonder if you could speak to why this is significant or important from your perspective.
Yes, it was quite unique. I've never had this kind of experience of working with just women composers, and we were also mentored by women composers, by the wonderful Melinda Wagner and Molly Joyce. We're both super sweet and super nice, and it reminded me of being raised of my own home, actually, because I was raised by two women. I was raised by my mom and grandma, so it was the three of us, three women, and so that kind of reminded me of that, and it made it feel like a very homely and intimate kind of environment, and you feel that there's some kind of support system. So it was wonderful.
And speaking of an intimate home-like experience, you have a lot of Florida connections going on right now. You live in Florida, you participated in the Naples Philharmonic Earshot readings last year, and you're being commissioned by a Florida ensemble, the Naples Philharmonic, through this program. What does it mean for you to have Florida as such a strong through line? Do you see this as an advantage or a unique opportunity?
Good question. Yes, Florida is my new home. I'm not originally from Florida. I grew up in Hong Kong and I came to the States as a student, studied at Michigan, and then eventually found myself in Florida. And I'm based there because my husband works here, works in Florida, and so that this is my new home, and it's really wonderful to be able to have a professional connection in your own home state. Because prior to that, I always had to like fly out of state, go to places like New York or LA. And right now I'm in Houston, preparing for my opera's premiere. But it's always, outside of the state. And it's really, you just feel like you're being recognized locally in your own kind of immediate surroundings. So that feels really great.
Wow, what can you share with us about this opera premiere that you're busy with these days?
Sure, of course. The opera is called The Big Swim, and it's based on the Lunar New Year story about the 12 zodiac animals that compete in a race. And so it's a family-friendly opera. It's meant for both children and adults, and for opera lovers and for people who don't really know opera. So it's meant for a very kind of broad and inclusive audience. And we're doing week 2 of rehearsals, and we're having the premiere on the 16th of February, and it's followed up with 2 more shows at the Asia Society in Houston.
Wow, congratulations, and a great premiere
Yeah,
for this Year of the Dragon, the luckiest of the of the
that's
zodiac, as
right.
I
Yeah.
understand.
Dragon, yeah. Thank you.
So, what are some of your ideas as you think about your upcoming commission and premiere with the Naples Philharmonic?
Um, this is not confirmed yet, but it's just an idea that popped into my head. I would love to use this opportunity to maybe dive more into, discovering the history and um, the culture, maybe folk culture of Florida, something that I've never learned about in school. I want to learn more about the wildlife and nature and in Florida, and just to find more about it, do more research about it, and promote the good stuff, the unique things about Florida with Naples Philharmonic. But
Wonderful,
this
and there's
is
certainly lots of
TBD.
wildlife for you to write about down there in Florida.
Oh yeah.
So to introduce our audience to some of the sounds you have created, we're going to listen to a short excerpt from a larger work of yours called The Great Step. What can you share with us about this piece?
Sure. The Great Step is actually the first movement of Nomadic Trails for chamber orchestra. There's another version for full orchestra as well. It was written during the pandemic, so it had to be for a socially distanced orchestra. So there's two versions. The first movement, the Great Step, it's inspired by the nomadic culture of the Great Step, which for those of you who don't know what the Great Step is, it's basically the Eurasian steppe, and it covers places like Kazakhstan, which is where I'm originally from. I was born in Kazakhstan, and it draws inspiration from traditional Kazakh music, in particular cues. Cues are instrumental pieces written for the national instrument called the dombira. It's like a two-string lute instrument. And it also draws inspiration from other things like Kazakh legends and petroglyphs and ornaments. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it.
Oh, most definitely. Well, Meilina, thanks again for taking the time and congratulations on this premiere. We're really looking forward to visiting down in Florida and hearing your new piece. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here's a little bit of The Great Step by Meilina Tsui. Wonderful, wonderful work there by Meilina. Well, the fifth of the six composers in our latest Toulmin Commissions cohort is the one and only Chelsea Komschlies. Chelsea's music, said to possess an ingratiating allure, is known for the way it blends the familiar and the strange to evoke vivid multi-sensory imagery to her listeners. Miss Komschlies is a PhD candidate in composition under Jean Lesage at McGill University, where she was awarded the Andrew Svoboda Prize for Orchestral Composition, as well as the Research Alive Student Prize for her thesis research in the scientific basis of cognitive cross-modal musical meaning. Her research research and composition work is also supported by the Fonds de Recherche du Québec. So far, Ms. Komschlies has been programmed by Alarm Will Sound, the Omaha Symphony, the Tucson Symphony, Choral Arts Philadelphia, and the Fifth House Ensemble, and by presenters such as Code d'Access, Le Vivier, Camarada, and the Philadelphia Bach Festival, in addition to the Boulanger Initiative and Make Music Chicago. Chelsea, welcome and congratulations on your latest commission.
Thank you, Loki. Thanks for the intro. And it's such an honor to be here with these amazing women.
So the American Composers Orchestra, we're extremely proud to serve composers, not just based in the United States, but across the Americas. I wonder if there are differences or maybe similarities that you can share based on your experiences working and studying in Canada and the United States.
Sure. Yeah, I think similar to the States, it's about kind of like the cities have their own pockets of musical culture. So Montreal is its own thing that's unique, and it's not the same as, Toronto, or it just like New York is not the same thing as Philadelphia. And like we all have our own little subcultures musically. What I have found at McGill especially is that there is a huge push for interdisciplinary work and this concept of research creation, where there's often like there's a research element and a creative element and workshopping, and the output is like a culmination of both things, which has been really helpful for me personally, because I have both the research interest and composition. And I think just in general, there's like a really open-mindedness, like stylistically here, anything goes, and they love experimental, like really textural, new sounds. Like, and what I do, I kind of mix that world with a super like cinematic, nostalgic world too, so that I feel very at home here and very able and free to be myself.
Wonderful, wonderful. One of the things that I was really excited to learn about you, you're not only a woman who is a composer, you're a woman who is a composer who is a mother. I wonder if you can talk about the impact that motherhood has had on your life, on your compositional process, and your overall career.
Sure, yeah. I mean, on my life, it's the most amazing part of my life so far. And I mean, I can make a joke like, oh, I need even more coffee now. I can't remember the last time I slept through the night. It's added a whole layer of challenge that I didn't have before, but it's so worth it. And musically, I guess I can take two angles to talk about this from two angles, especially. And one is I'm really interested in my work on the impact that sound and music has on the individual listener's brain, like not just mind, but brain. And to be doing research that is also kind of correlated to that. And then also to see my two little girls growing up and to see brain development and how they are learning and how they react to sound and music has been really cool. Like I've learned that babies love weird sounds. Like there's nothing that's too experimental for them. They just want novelty, right? So I remember my first baby, when she was little, she was really fussy, but she loved like weird, like I played her some Chelsea and she just like calmed down and she was just like in the zone, like so and the other angle is to have these two little girls and to be working in a field that's traditionally male dominated has been, it puts like a layer of impetus on me to be a good role model for my girls, to show them that they can do whatever career they want to do. And I show my work sometimes to my 4-year-old and she like gives me unfiltered opinions.
Wow, wow. Babies love weird sounds. I'm not going to forget that. Thank you for sharing that. So like a few of the other women in your Toulmin cohort, you were hand selected by the orchestra who hosted your earshot readings. I wonder what you're hoping to bring back to the Tucson Symphony Orchestra as you think about this premiere.
Sure, yeah. Well, it's awesome to work with them again. I love the people there, and I'm looking forward to deepening the friendship I already have with the people there. And it's been kind of an ongoing thing already. Like I was actually there last month. They performed that earshot piece, so I got to work with them I got to work with their young composers. So I'm really looking forward to that, like having a real friendship between me and that orchestra. And musically, I have some ideas already in the title, but I'm not going to share the title. But I'll tell you that it's going to be hopefully weird and wonderful, and a combination of like textural and like what is going on, but also like cinematic and reverent. And it has an ecological angle.
Wow. So it sounds like it's going to be a piece of music suited for babies and grown-ups at the same time. To transition and to give the audience a little taste of your aesthetic, we're going to hear an excerpt from a work of yours titled The Sunken Cathedral. What can you share about the Sunken Cathedral?
Yeah, so I call this work an unapologetic tone poem, and it's inspired by the same legend as the Debussy piano piece by the same title, if anyone knows it. So in this story, the ancient mythical city of Ys is submerged underwater, but sometimes the Cathedral of Ys rises up out of the water, and we hear the bells and the organ playing. And I need to give a little background. So this was my thesis piece for my PhD. A little background on my research topic is called cross-modal correspondences, and these are almost kind of like a synesthesia, but that we all share. And so the research explains that there are certain sounds that we agree sound a certain brightness, or in this piece I've worked with the idea that like the beginning of the piece, we're kind of looking at the ocean, we submerge, and then you're in a world that's dark, cold, underwater, mysterious, and then it rises up to the opposite side of the spectrum. So like then the brightness, dry, colorful. So I tried to code those ideas in a way that I hope will allow listeners to actually picture, like without even trying, like involuntarily picture the part of the story that we're in. Like they'll feel cold, they'll feel like they're in a dark, underwater, mysterious place, and then transition to that upper, above water place. And I did also, like, this piece is one that mixes the super cinematic with the stranger microtonal world too.
Wow, wow. Well, thank you for that preview. Congrats on motherhood. Congrats on your latest commission, and thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Here's a little of The Sunken Cathedral by Chelsea Komschlies. Wonderful music there. Before we move on, I'd like to just take a moment to thank my, I'll call him my digital board operator today, Jordan Musser, our program manager, for taking care of all of the sounds that you're hearing. So thank you so much, Jordan, for your help. And last but certainly not least, for today's spotlight, please welcome here to the digital stage, Marina López. Marina is a Pittsburgh-based composer, educator, and budding writer. She has a deep interest in challenging boundaries between musical genres and art forms in order to craft immersive experiences that subvert audiences' preconceptions. Born and raised in Mexico City, her music often explores the psychological, ethnomusicological, and physical roots of her heritage. Her music has been performed by the Transient Canvas, the Chamber Orchestra of Pittsburgh, the Carnegie Mellon University Contemporary Ensemble, Counter Inductions Ensemble, the Carnegie Mellon University Philharmonic, Cameraton Ensemble, and Boston's White Snake Project, among others. Thank you so much for taking the time today, Marina, and congratulations on this latest commission.
Thank you so much.
I was really drawn by what I read on your website. It says that you're someone who has a deep interest in exploring, again, the psychological, ethnomusicological, and physical roots of your musical heritage. I wonder if you can say a little bit more about this. What drives this interest, and how do you apply it to your creative process?
Yes, so this line of thinking that is expressed in this rather verbose sentence is something that came out of, it's definitely a function of immigration and of finding yourself being an outsider in a place and sort of looking inward and seeing the things that make you different from the people who are around you. It is something that started out of a place of homesickness and also a little bit out of the sort of the boxes that a lot of minorities kind of feel nudged to put themselves into in order to be understood by the wider audience. But it ended up being an exploration of the concept of memory and how music is part of the things that make us into the people that we are. So the sounds of our childhood, the music that we grew up with that inform our emotional life, our psychological life, and also like the ethnomusicological heritage that is like Mexican music. And lately, this line of thinking has really expanded beyond just Mexicanness into an exploration of Western music and of the Western musical canon and how I fit into this canon and how this is my heritage too, in a way. And it also has been expanding since I've been in the US for so long into looking around me and like observing and absorbing the music of the US and of Pittsburgh, where I'm based.
Wow, that's beautiful. You know, when you talk about Mexicanness, I can't help but to think about the Mexican influence of Texas, specifically the city of Houston, where your earshot readings took place some years ago. I wonder what you remember most about that collaboration with the Houston Symphony.
Yeah, I mean, still talking about identity, there are many things I remember. I remember that I heard about this opportunity weeks before it happened because there were like some crazy like things of fate that made this possible for me. I also remember that when I got there, it was a Latin American or like Latino composer earshot, and the sense of community really that came out of there was something I had never felt before. Being able to be with other composers who had a similar background and a similar like struggle as I had, similar ideas about identity and how to use their identity in their music. I think they could probably somewhat relate with the like answer I gave before to the question about your musical heritage. There are a lot of friendships that continue out of that time together, and generally the kindness and the care that that the ACA put into this opportunity for us was really meaningful for me.
So while your earshot readings took place close to our southern border, your Toulmin premiere will happen a little closer to the opposite border. We were really
Yeah.
excited when the Grand Rapids Symphony Orchestra told us that they were interested in commissioning you. I wonder if you can share anything about what you're planning, or at least what you're thinking about as you look forward to this upcoming collaboration.
Yeah, it very much follows this line of thinking. I am thinking about exploring uh, Western musical genres and conventions and sort of manipulating them and breaking them and interrogating them. So that's what I've been thinking about.
Wow, wow. Well, we're looking forward to that premiere, and we're really excited about it. Well, to round out today's spotlight and to introduce our audience to some of your work, we're going to hear an excerpt from a work that you titled Folia. What can you share with us about this tune?
Yeah, so this would be a good example of that. La Folia is a framework of a Renaissance European dance. It is a progression of chords that were used to improvise upon at the time, hundreds of years ago. And the piece uses that and combines it with like hip hop freestyling flows and rhythms. And this was very much me exploring the idea of Americanness and trying to get a deeper feeling for something that I saw a lot of people around me have really deep in their bones. A lot of people my age have hip hop really deep. They remember and they can like quote back to all these different people that they know, these different musicians, and even the experience of freestyling, of having such a mastery of language and of rhythm that they can just come up and do that. So this was my attempt at like merging these two like seemingly disparate influences.
Wow. Well, we'll take a listen here. Marina, congrats again on your commission,
Thank you.
and thanks for taking the time to chat today.
Thank you.
Here's a little bit of La Folia as realized by composer Marina López. And with that, I'd like to conclude today's Toulmin Spotlight by thanking and congratulating one more time each of the composers who have been selected for our latest cohort. I would also like to thank each of you watching for joining us today. Another reminder that if you're here representing an orchestra and would like to feature one of the 6 composers who you met today in an upcoming performance, go over to americancomposers.org to find out how you can put your orchestra's name into the hat. We'll be accepting proposals through February 8th. 8th. I also hope that you'll consider coming back here tomorrow, February 6th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm very excited to lead a dialogue with Maestro Tito Munoz and composer Adam Schoenberg on the topic of rehearsal techniques for composers. You can find more information about that event, and you can get your free tickets to the virtual session again at americancomposers.org. Another huge thanks to all of our earshot partners, the American Composers Forum, New Music USA, and the League of American Orchestras. We're very grateful to the many individuals and organizations who have made earshot possible through their support, and to ACO's artists, staff, and board for making this a program that we can turn into a reality. Another huge, huge, huge thanks to the Virginia B. Toulmin Foundation and to all of our earshot partners. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.